A widow in rags, the human colony marketplace was loud and crowded. Traders shouted to sell food, machines hummed, and people rushed through the streets. But in one dusty corner, under a broken sign, sat someone no one wanted to see, an alien woman. Her name was Lyra. She sat on the cold stone floor, her legs crossed, her arms around two small children. Her skin was light purple, her eyes silver and large, full of sadness. Her clothes were torn, old, and too thin for the cold wind blowing across the street. People passed by her like she was invisible. No one spoke to her. No one helped. Her two sons sat beside her quietly. One was trying to stay awake, blinking slowly. The other leaned on her shoulder, already asleep. Both boys looked weak, hungry and tired. They had not eaten in days. Lyra had once lived in a beautiful city. She had a house, a family, and a strong husband. But the war changed everything. Her husband died fighting. Her home was destroyed. Her people called her a traitor's wife. They took everything from her and told her to leave. She ran. She crossed many planets, hiding with her children. And now she had reached this human colony, hoping for safety. But even here she was unwanted. The colony had rules. Every alien had to register. Every child had to have a home. If they found her without papers, the guards would take her boys and send them to a government shelter. She knew what happened in those shelters. Children disappeared. Families were never reunited. So she sat in the marketplace every day, waiting. Waiting for someone who would help, but help never came until one day he walked by. A tall human man, rough jacket, strong arms, a bag on his shoulder. His face looked serious, with eyes that had seen war. His name was Jack. He had fought in the same war that destroyed Lyra's life. Now he lived in this colony, trying to forget his past. He didn't smile much, he didn't talk much, he liked being alone. But when he passed by Lyra, he paused. Her eyes met his. She didn't beg. She didn't speak. She just stared at him with a calm, tired look. He stopped walking. She stood up slowly, careful not to wake the younger boy. Her body was weak, but her voice was steady. "Sir," she said, "please." Jack looked at her. "Do you need food?" he asked. She nodded once. "Yes, but also, I need something more." Jack raised an eyebrow. "What?" "I need a husband," she whispered. "I need someone to take me in." Jack frowned. "Excuse me?" She took a deep breath. "If I don't bond with someone soon, my children will be taken. The colony laws, they will separate us. I'm not asking for love, I just want safety. A home." Jack stared at her in disbelief. "You want me to marry you?" he asked. "I will work, clean, cook. I will not be a problem," she said quickly. "But I need your name, your roof, your protection." He looked down at the two small boys. They didn't beg either. They just stared at him, eyes wide, full of silent hope. "I don't even know you," Jack said. "You don't have to know me," Lyra said. "Just give me a chance to keep my family together." People around them had started watching. Jack felt strange, angry, confused. He reached into his bag and pulled out a food ration bar. He handed it to her. She looked at the food, then looked back at him. "I can't give you anything more," Jack said. "I'm sorry." He turned and walked away. Lyra didn't chase him. She sat back down and gave the bar to her boys. She broke it in half and watched them eat. She did not eat herself. Jack kept walking, but something inside him was not quiet. Her voice, her eyes, they stayed in his mind. That night, he sat alone in his small apartment, thinking. He had lived, alone for years. He had seen people die, cities burn, soldiers beg for life. But today, an alien woman asked him for marriage, not out of love, but out of desperation. He told himself to forget, but in his heart, he knew he wouldn't. Her strange, Request. The storm came without warning. Cold wind blew through the colony streets. Rain poured down like falling glass. The sky was dark, and the power lines flickered. Most people had locked their doors and closed their windows. Jack sat alone in his small apartment, drinking hot water and staring at the wall. But his mind wasn't quiet. He kept seeing her, the alien woman, Lyra. Her voice was soft, but her words were still heavy in his ears. Take me as your husband, if not for love, for safety. No one had ever asked him something like that, not in war, not in peace. Suddenly, a knock at the door. Soft, wet, weak. Jack froze. Another knock. He got up slowly and moved to the door. When he opened it, his breath caught. It was her. Lyra stood outside, soaked in the rain, holding both children. One of the boys was bleeding from the forehead. The other was crying silently. Her own arms were shaking. I'm sorry, she whispered. I had no one else. Jack didn't speak. He just stepped aside. She entered without a sound, her arms still wrapped around her boys. They were cold, wet and hurt, but quiet. Jack brought towels and gave them to the children. Then he lit the heater. What happened? He asked finally. Street boys, she said softly. They saw we had food today. They tried to take it. Jack clenched his jaw. And you didn't fight back? I couldn't, she said. They had knives. I ran. She knelt beside her sons, drying their faces. Her hands were gentle, but her face was hard, like stone. I told you I can't help you, Jack said. I know, Lyra replied. But I didn't come to beg again. Jack raised an eyebrow. Then why are you here? She looked up, her silver eyes locked on his. I want to make you an offer. Jack sat down across from her. What kind of offer? You don't have a family, she said. You live alone. You have no one waiting for you, just like me. He said nothing. I'm not here to make you feel sorry. I'm offering a bond, a legal one. You give me your name, your roof. I give you loyalty, care, company, and a reason to wake up every morning. Jack leaned back. And love? She hesitated, then shook her head. I won't promise love. Not now, maybe never. But I will promise this. I will never betray you. Jack stood and walked to the window. Rain hit the glass hard. People think I'm cold, he said quietly. After the war, I just stopped feeling things. My home was gone. My friends were dead. I've been living like a shadow. He turned around. And now you show up, a stranger, a mother, asking for marriage. I am not asking, Lyra said. I'm offering. Her voice didn't shake. Jack walked over to her and looked down. Why me? Because you looked at me, she said. You didn't turn away. That was enough. For a long moment, the room was silent. Jack looked at the boys, now asleep on the floor, wrapped in warm blankets. Then he looked at Lyra, still kneeling, still proud, even in the middle of nothing. He sighed. You can stay the night, he said. One night. Lyra nodded. Thank you. But tomorrow, Jack added, we talk about this again, and this time I'll ask the questions. I'll be ready, she said softly. Jack walked to the kitchen. He wasn't sure if he had made a mistake or taken the first step toward something he didn't understand yet. Behind him, Lyra laid down next to her children and whispered something in a soft alien language. A lullaby. Jack listened. And for the first time in many years, the silence in his apartment didn't feel empty. The man with a choice, Jack, woke before the sun. His small apartment was dark and quiet. The storm had passed, but the sky outside was still gray. A faint light came through the window. He turned his head. Lyra was sleeping on the floor beside her. Children. One boy was curled into her chest, the other holding her hand. Even in sleep, her arms stayed wrapped around them, like a shield. Jack stood up silently and walked into the kitchen. He poured himself some water, then sat at the table. But he wasn't thirsty. He was confused. He had let them stay for one night. Now it was morning. What was he going to do? She had asked for a bond. A real one. Marriage. Not for love, but to protect her family. She had made it sound like a deal. But it wasn't simple. Jack had never married, never even thought about it. And now an alien widow, a stranger, was in his home with children. He looked toward them again. Lyra's face twitched slightly in her sleep. She was dreaming. Her body moved restlessly and soft sounds came from her lips. Suddenly, she cried out, "No, please don't take them." Jack rushed over. "Lyra!" She gasped and woke, her eyes wide, her breath fast. "It's okay," Jack said. "You're safe." She sat up, sweating. Her hands trembled as she pulled her children closer. One of the boys woke, blinking in fear. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Nightmare?" Jack asked. She nodded. "It happens often." Jack noticed her shirt had slipped slightly from her shoulder, just for a second. But it was enough. He saw the scars, deep lines across her back and shoulder. Old. Painful. These weren't battle wounds. They were from punishment. He looked at her, speechless. She saw his face and turned away, pulling the fabric. "Back up. I didn't want you to see," she whispered. "Who did that to you?" Jack asked, his voice low. "My own people," she said. "After my husband died in the war, they said he was a traitor. They said I knew his plans. They blamed me. I was taken, beaten, marked." Jack stared at her. Lyra spoke without tears. Her voice was calm, but hollow. "I escaped the labor camp, took my boys, hid on cargo ships, crossed 3 systems. Then, I came here." She looked up at him. "I didn't ask for this life. I didn't choose to be alone, but I can't lose them too." Jack leaned back, silent. "I'm not weak," she said. "I know how to fight. I was trained, but I can't do this alone anymore." He looked down at his hands. "I fought in that same war," he said. "I lost people too, friends, brothers." They were quiet for a long time. Then Jack stood. He walked to a drawer and pulled out a small silver data chip. He placed it on the table. "This is a bonding registry form," he said. "I downloaded it yesterday. I don't even know why." Lyra stared at it. "I haven't signed it yet," Jack added, "because I don't know what kind of man I am anymore. I'm tired, cold, broken maybe." She stood slowly. "You're not broken," she said. "You let us in. That was more kindness than I've seen in years." He looked at her. "I still don't love you," he said. "I know," she replied. "I don't need love right now. I need a future." Jack hesitated. Then he pushed the chip toward her. "If we do this," he said, "you stay. They stay. And you're not just guests. You're my family." Lyra reached out and placed her hand over his. "I already made my choice," she said. "I was just waiting to see if you would." Jack didn't smile, but something in his chest softened a little. Secrets from her past. The next morning, sunlight came through the window for the first time in days. Jack stood outside the apartment, fixing a broken panel near the door. Inside, Lyra swept the floor, and the boys cleaned old dishes with small smiles. The apartment finally felt alive, not fancy, not perfect, but warm. Jack had told himself he was still thinking about the bonding papers. But deep down, he knew the truth. He had already decided. He didn't want to lose them. As he finished his work, he heard footsteps, sharp, heavy, official. He turned and saw 2 figures walking toward him. One wore a gray uniform with the colony's crest. The other, taller, wore a black cloak and thin metal gloves. Colony enforcement. The officer stopped in front of Jack. "Jack Monroe?" she asked. "Yes," he said carefully. "I'm Officer Venn. We've received a report. You've been harboring undocumented aliens." Jack's heart dropped. Inside, Lyra had stopped sweeping. Her hands clutched the broom tighter. The man in the black cloak stepped forward. His eyes scanned the apartment. 2 minors, 1 adult female. No ID, no registration. "They're with me," Jack said, standing firm. "She's my—" "Your what?" Officer Venn interrupted. Jack hesitated. Lyra appeared in the doorway, holding both boys behind her. "They're mine," she said clearly. "Leave them alone." The cloaked man pulled out a scanner and raised it toward her. Lyra didn't move. The screen lit up. Her record appeared. Jack saw it over the man's shoulder. Name: Lyra Velan. Status: fugitive. Former rank: resistance. Agent charged war crimes, escape from labor colony. His eyes widened. The officer turned to Jack. "You still want to claim her?" Jack didn't speak. Lyra looked at him, her eyes shining, not with fear, but with shame. "I wanted to tell you," she whispered. Jack stared at her. "You were a resistance fighter?" She nodded slowly. "I was forced to fight when my world burned. My husband led a rebellion. I followed him. After he died, they said I knew everything. They blamed me. I never hurt anyone. But they marked me like I did." Jack felt like the ground beneath him was shifting. Officer Venn stepped forward. "If you don't declare a legal bond now, we'll take her into custody. The children, too." Lyra dropped to her knees beside the boys, wrapping her arms around them. The older child looked at Jack and said in a soft, trembling voice, "Please don't let them take us." Jack didn't move. The cloaked man raised a device to call in a transport. Then Jack did something unexpected. He walked into the apartment, grabbed the marriage chip, walked back out, and pressed his thumb to it. Beep. "I declare bonding," Jack said. "This woman is my wife. These boys are mine." The officers froze. Officer Venn blinked. "Are you serious?" "She is not a threat to me," Jack said. "She's not your enemy. She's a mother, and she's my family now." Lyra stared at him, her mouth slightly open, her eyes filled with tears, real ones. The cloaked man scowled. "The colony will be watching." Jack nodded. "Let them." Officer Venn tapped on her device. "Marriage registered. Guardianship approved. You're all legal now, but don't cause trouble." They walked away without another word. Lyra stood. Slowly. "You didn't have to do that." Jack looked at her. "Yes, I did." She looked like she wanted to say something, but her voice broke. Instead, she walked over and placed her forehead gently against his chest. He didn't move for a moment, then wrapped his arms around her. The boys joined them, small arms holding tight. In that quiet moment, no one said anything, but everything had changed. The deal is sealed. The next few days felt strange, but calm. Jack and Lyra were now officially bonded. On paper, they were husband and wife, but it still didn't feel real. Lyra cleaned the apartment each morning. Jack helped the boys fix an old, broken drone. In the evenings, they sat quietly, eating simple meals, saying little. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't perfect. But it was peaceful. For a while. Then one quiet night, everything changed. Jack was just about to fall asleep. The boys were already in bed, curled up in their blanket nest. Lyra sat near the window staring at the stars, lost in thought. Then, a sharp sound, a loud crack, like glass exploding. Jack jumped up. Lyra turned her head fast. "Window," she said. The front window shattered. A metal dart flew through the air and hit the wall near the boys' bed. Jack ran to them, pulling them down. "Stay low!" Lyra had already moved. She grabbed the knife she kept under the table, one she had hidden without telling Jack. She didn't look afraid. She looked ready. Jack peeked through the broken glass. A shadow was moving outside. Then, a crash. The door flew open. An armored alien stepped inside, tall and silent, its eyes glowing faint red. A bounty hunter. Jack fired his old blaster. The shot hit the hunter's shoulder, but it kept coming. Lyra didn't hesitate. She dashed forward, spun low, and sliced across the hunter's leg. It screamed. Then she kicked it hard in the chest. It crashed backward, knocking over furniture. Jack stared at her. She moved like a trained fighter. Lyra stood over the hunter, her chest rising and falling. "It's one of mine," she said. "They found me." "You mean your people?" Jack asked. She nodded. "They hired hunters. They want me taken alive, or dead if bonded to a human." Jack clenched his jaw. "They'll kill all of us." She looked him straight in the eyes. "Then, we don't let them." That night they stayed awake, watching, waiting. Jack cleaned his old blaster. Lyra reinforced the doors with metal rods and scrap pieces. The boys didn't cry. They stayed close to their mother, holding her sleeves, watching her move like someone they had never seen before. She wasn't just a gentle caretaker anymore. She was something more. In the morning, Jack looked at her across the small kitchen. "You didn't tell me you could fight like that. I didn't want you to see that side of me," she replied. "Why not?" "Because I didn't want to scare you." Jack shook his head. "You didn't scare me. You impressed me." She blinked. "You're not angry?" He stepped closer. "I'm a soldier too. I know what it means to survive." She placed the knife on the table slowly. "I've done things I'm not proud of." "So have I," Jack said. "But you protected the boys. You protected me." She sat down, tired. "They won't stop, Jack. Now that we're bonded, they'll come harder." "I don't care," Jack said firmly. "They'll find more than just a fugitive. They'll find a man ready to fight beside her." Lyra looked up at him, really looked. "You mean that?" He nodded. She lowered her gaze. "I never thought a human would say those words to me." He pulled something from his coat pocket. The bonding ring. Small. Silver. Simple. "Forgot to give you this when we registered," he said. Lyra took it slowly. Her hands trembled a little. Not from fear, but from something else. "I never wore one before," she whispered. "My people don't use rings." "Well," Jack said, "humans do." She smiled. A small, honest smile. And for the first time it felt like the deal they made had become something real. Not out of survival, but out of respect. And maybe something deeper, something neither of them was ready to name yet. More than a wife. Jack had always thought of Lyra as someone who needed protection. A quiet alien widow, a tired mother, a desperate woman. But that belief was about to change. Forever. The sky was dark, not because it was night, but because something was coming. Lyra felt it first. She stood still near the window, eyes focused on the horizon. Her long fingers gripped the wall beside her. Her shoulders were tense. Jack looked up from his tools. "What is it?" "They've arrived," she said. "The real ones." He walked over. "Bounty hunters?" She shook her head. "No. Worse. My brother's soldiers." Jack's eyes narrowed. "You never said you had a brother." "I did," Lyra said quietly. "He's not like me. He stayed loyal to the Empire. When I ran, he swore to hunt me." Jack looked out the window. Far in the distance, a black ship hovered above the colony rooftops. Silent. Watching. "They'll come on foot," Lyra said. "Fast, clean, trained." Jack grabbed his old rifle and checked. The charge. "We hold them off." "No," she said. "I hold them off." He turned sharply. "We're a team now. I'm not hiding behind you." Lyra stared at him. Her voice was calm. "If they catch you and the boys, they'll take you. Torture you. Use you to break me." Jack didn't blink. "Let them try." Then, without a word, she walked over, reached into her bag, and pulled out something he had never seen her touch before. A black combat vest, old, damaged, but marked with silver stripes, the sign of a commander. "You were an officer?" Jack asked. I trained squads during the uprising, Lyra replied, placing the vest over her body. She picked up her curved blade, tested the edge, and strapped it to her hip. Jack stared at her, not as a widow, not as a refugee, but as a warrior. That evening, they moved quickly. Lyra hid the boys in a basement shelter beneath the apartment. Jack stayed with them for a moment, kneeling down. "Don't make a sound," he whispered. "No matter what happens above, you stay here. You protect each other." The older boy asked, "Will Mama come back?" Jack nodded. "She always does." Then he stood and closed the door behind him. He walked upstairs, loaded his rifle, and stood beside her. "You still want to do this together?" she asked. Jack smirked. "You're not just my wife now, you're my partner." She didn't smile, but her eyes softened. Then the lights cut out. A loud humming filled the air. They came. The first enemy crashed through the rooftop, a tall alien covered in gray armor, dual blades in each hand. Jack fired. The shot hit the shoulder. Knocking it back, Lyra moved like lightning, 1/2 steps, then a jump. Her blade cut through armor as if it was paper. Another one came through the front door. She tackled it without a sound. Jack watched her fight, fast, focused, brutal. She wasn't angry. She wasn't wild. She was in control, a true soldier. But then, something changed. From the far corner of the apartment, a new voice echoed. "Well, little sister, still running?" Jack turned. A tall figure stepped through the smoke. Golden armor, red eyes, voice cold as ice. Lyra froze. "Rin," she whispered. Jack raised his weapon, but Lyra stopped him. "He's mine." Her brother laughed. "You ran to a human, became his pet?" "I became free," she said. "Something you'll never understand." Rin pulled out a long metal spear. "I gave you a chance once. Now you're just a problem to fix," he charged. Jack tried to fire, but Lyra was faster. She blocked the spear with her blade. Metal clashed, sparks flew. Jack stepped back, guarding. The hallway. 2 more soldiers tried to enter. He shot them both. Fast, clean. But his eyes stayed on her. Lyra moved with fury, not rage, but purpose. She wasn't just surviving. She was defending her new home. The fight with her brother shook the apartment. They crashed through walls, kicked over tables, smashed into the kitchen. Jack wanted to help, but he couldn't. Step in. This was her fight. Then finally, Lyra found an opening. She twisted. Her blade slid under his chest plate. She pulled it out fast. He gasped, stumbling back. "You could have ruled beside me," he whispered. "I'd rather be a nobody, with love, than a queen with chains," she replied. He fell, still, silent, dead. Later that night, Jack and Lyra sat on the roof, watching the stars. The boys slept safely below. Lyra leaned her head on Jack's shoulder. Her blade sat beside her, bloody and quiet. Jack looked down at her hands, so strong, so steady. "I thought I had to protect you," he said softly. She chuckled. "You do?" He raised an eyebrow. "Really?" "Yes," she whispered. "Not from others. From yourself." Jack smiled, and then, for the first time, she said it. "I love you." Jack didn't answer. He didn't need to. His hand reached over hers and held it tightly, as if to say, "I'm never letting go." A family forged by fire. The apartment was quiet again, but it wasn't peace. It was the silence before the storm. Jack sat at the table, fixing his old rifle. Each part clicked into place with practiced hands. Across the room, Lyra knelt on the floor, wrapping her sons in thicker clothes. The boys looked up at her, eyes wide, but they didn't cry. They had seen enough to understand what silence meant now. Lyra kissed their foreheads. "No matter what happens," she said softly, "you stay hidden." The oldest boy nodded. "We're strong, Mama." Her lips shook. Jack walked over and handed the boy a small flashlight. "If the power dies, use this." Stay together. The boy took it with a firm grip. Will you come back? Jack looked at Lyra. Yes, he said. We always come back. Lyra closed the metal hatch under the kitchen floor and locked it. The basement shelter was tiny, dark, and safe, for now. She turned to Jack. They will come at sunrise. Jack nodded. We'll be ready. She placed a hand on his arm. This time, they aren't just soldiers. These are hunters. They only have one mission, end the bloodline of traitors. And they think that includes your boys? Jack asked. She nodded. My brother failed. Now they'll erase all of us to clean the record. Jack loaded his rifle. They're going to regret coming here. Lyra strapped on her vest. Her blade hung on one side. On the other, a short-range plasma pistol Jack had given her. The door creaked. The wind outside had changed. It howled like it knew what was coming. They'll come in waves, Lyra said. First the scouts, then the fire team, then the cleanser. The cleanser? They send one when they want no survivors. Jack didn't flinch. He looked around the room. The apartment was small. Cracked walls, cheap lights, second-hand furniture. But it was home now, and he was going to defend it. The first attack came at dawn. The sky turned gold, but the street turned red. A small drone zipped through the air and exploded against the outer wall. The blast shook the building. Dust fell from the ceiling. Jack took position near the window, watching the road. 3 dark shapes moved between the buildings. Fast, silent, holding rifles shaped like claws. They're here, he said. Lyra crouched behind the door. Let them get close. The first one reached the porch, then Lyra kicked the door open hard. The attacker fell back. Jack fired. 1 shot, center mass, gone. The second tried to enter from the side. Lyra grabbed its arm, twisted, and slammed it against the wall. The third managed to shoot, burning a hole into the ceiling. Jack jumped forward and knocked it down with the butt of his rifle. They were fast, but not fast enough. 10 minutes passed, then silence again. Jack breathed heavily, sweat on his face. Lyra checked her pistol. They're testing our defenses. Jack looked out. Next wave? She nodded. We don't stay here, we move. He opened the hidden floor hatch and looked at the boys. Out. Now. We're going. The children crawled out, blinking. Where? Jack asked. There's an old bunker near the water plant, Lyra said. No one patrols there anymore. We can hide and fight from a better spot. Jack nodded. They moved fast. Lyra carried the younger boy. Jack held the older's hand. Together, they ran through back alleys, across broken fences, through sewer paths. No one spoke. Even the boys knew. Noise meant death. They reached the bunker just as the sun hit its peak. Lyra typed a code into the rusted panel. The door opened with a slow grind. Inside it was cold, dark, empty, but safe. She lit a small lantern. We stay here until it's over, she said. But Jack shook his head. They won't stop. Not until we stop them first. You want to fight? Lyra asked. I want to finish this, Jack said. For good. Lyra walked toward him, eyes sharp. Then we take the fight to them. Night came again. Lyra and Jack left the boys in the bunker. They knew the enemy's landing ship was parked near the colony border, a small power station surrounded by armed guards and scanners. They moved silently through the shadows. Jack fired, the first shot, taking out the lookout on the roof. Lyra moved next, slipping past the gate like a ghost. Her blade found 2 guards before they even knew she was there. But then, the light snapped on. The cleanser had arrived. It stood nearly 7 feet tall, a black suit of armor wrapped around its body like bone. No face, just red lights glowing through its helmet. It raised both hands, flames shot from its palms. Jack ducked, pulling Lyra behind a pillar. He's burning everything, Jack growled. They want the whole colony to see, Lyra whispered. A message. Then let's give them one back. The fight was brutal. Jack drew the cleanser's fire while Lyra circled from behind. Jack's shots hit, but barely scratched its armor. Then Lyra jumped from above, slashing into its shoulder joint. The creature turned, roaring like metal being torn apart. It swung its arm and threw her across the ground. Jack screamed and ran to her, but Lyra wasn't unconscious. She stood again, bleeding, limping but ready. Together they ran forward. Jack fired one last shot. Lyra leapt and drove her blade deep into its throat. The cleanser fell. Silent. Dead. By morning the ship was gone. The fire teams were defeated, and news had spread. The colony guards arrived late, but when they saw what had happened, they didn't question Jack or Lyra. They only stared with quiet respect. The colonists, human and alien, stood at a distance. They didn't speak, but they knew. Something had changed. Weeks later, Jack stood at the colony's main hall, dressed. In clean clothes for the first time in years, Lyra stood beside him, her sons holding her hands. The governor stepped forward. "We cannot change what the past has done," she said. "But today we welcome this family, not as outlaws, not as strangers, but as heroes." People clapped. Jack didn't smile. He only looked at Lyra. She squeezed his hand. Her eyes were soft now, peaceful. That night, in their rebuilt home, Lyra tucked the boys into bed. Jack stood by the window, looking at the stars. She walked over and leaned against him. "You're quiet," she said. "Just thinking," Jack replied. "About what?" He turned and looked at her. "About how I was alone before you came," he said. "And now, I can't imagine life without you." Lyra touched his face gently. "Then don't," she whispered. He leaned forward and kissed her, slow and soft. Outside, the stars blinked. Inside, the lights stayed warm. They were no longer survivors. They were a family. And no one would ever tear them apart again. The end.